I stood before the heavy wooden gate of the luxurious villa I knew so well in Beverly Hills. The exhaustion from my flight to Los Angeles vanished in an instant, replaced by a strange emptiness. I slid the key into the lock, turned it once, then twice, but the door didn't budge. It was solid as a wall. Convinced I wasn't mistaken, I tried again, but the result was the same. The door was locked from the inside. A vague uneasiness crept into my mind. I had purposely come back a day early to surprise my husband Daniel. After 7 years of marriage, romantic surprises like that had become rare, but I wanted to rekindle the spark between us. Yet, the first one surprised was me. I took out my phone and called Daniel. The ringtone dragged on, tense. He didn't pick up until the 5th ring. His voice sounded hurried and uneasy. "Are you done with work, Rose?" "I just got back. I'm standing at our front door. Why is it locked from the inside?" I tried to keep my voice calm. There was a brief silence. I could faintly hear the sound of waves and upbeat music. Daniel clearly wasn't in any meeting room. My heart began to race. I'm in a meeting with an important client. I'll probably be home late. Why don't you take a cab to your parents' place? I'll be back tomorrow for sure. What kind of meeting sounds like it's at the beach? I'm meeting in Miami at South Beach. Oh, my boss is calling. I have to hang up. I'll call you later. Love you. He hung up abruptly, not giving me a chance to ask more. Love you, those 2 words echoed hollow and disgusting. I had heard them for 7 years, but never had they sounded so fake. I pulled my heavy suitcase away from the gate. I was about to call a cab to my parents' house when Henry, the gatekeeper, passed by on his patrol and smiled at me. "Mrs. Rose, you're back. You look great." "Hello, Henry." "Yes, I just arrived." I forced a smile. "Did you see anyone coming or going from my house today?" "Oh, didn't you travel with the family?" he asked, surprised. "Yesterday I saw Mr. Miller taking his wife and the whole family to the airport. They said they were heading to Miami for a week to celebrate some good news. There was also a young, very beautiful woman. They said she was Mr. Daniel's girlfriend, and the good news is, she's pregnant, so the whole family went to celebrate. Mr. Miller was so happy he said he'd finally have a grandson." Each word hit me like a hammer. Good news. Girlfriend, pregnant, Miami, his whole family. A storm of chaos flooded my mind. The curtain of lies Daniel and his family had so carefully built had just been torn apart by someone who didn't even know. I couldn't remember how I said goodbye to Henry. When I came to my senses, I was standing before that wooden door again, my eyes burning with a cold determination. I had to get inside. I needed the truth. I called a locksmith, my voice so steady and icy that even I didn't recognize it. Pain and betrayal had condensed into a dark force ready to destroy everything. After nearly 20 minutes, the locksmith managed to open the door, took his payment, and hurried off, as if sensing the suffocating air around me. A click, the lock released. I pushed open the door to the house I once proudly called home. The scent of white lilies, my mother-in-law, Margaret Miller's favorite flower to display every week, hit my nose, making me nauseous. The house was empty, yet traces of a rushed departure lingered everywhere. Pillows out of place on the sofa, a half-finished glass of water on the table. My heart pounded as I looked at the family photo wall. I froze. Between our wedding picture and photos from past vacations, there was a new frame in the most prominent spot. My husband's entire family smiling brightly at the airport. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and Daniel. He stood in the middle, one hand on his mother's shoulder, the other around a strange woman's waist. She smiled proudly, wearing a thin dress that revealed her pregnant belly. They looked like a perfect family, and I, the legal wife, was nothing but an outsider. I covered my mouth to stifle a sob, then staggered into Daniel's office, where the computer we shared sat. My hands trembling, I typed in the password, our wedding anniversary. The screen lit up. The first thing I saw was a reservation confirmation for a 5-star resort in Miami booked under Daniel Miller and Laura Foster, Ocean View Suite, 1 week. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I opened our family cloud folder, the one where I used to share happy memories with friends. And then, hell unfolded. In a folder labeled Family Celebration in Miami, hundreds of photos were being uploaded. Daniel feeding that woman, my mother-in-law walking hand in hand with her on the beach, gazing at her like her own daughter. My father-in-law placing his hand on her belly, grinning with pride. The whole family toasting with champagne. Daniel and Lara at the center, radiant and blissful, celebrating their betrayal of me. In their world, I no longer existed. I scrolled through each picture, my heart tearing apart. Lara's face appeared clearly, cold eyes, a fake sweet smile laced with defiance, as if mocking me for my foolishness. There were even videos, laughter echoing, my mother-in-law's affectionate voice, calling her our new daughter-in-law. Daniel promising that once everything was settled, he'd give his wife and son their rightful place. Wife and son meaning I had to disappear. I was the obstacle, the problem to be removed. 7 years of love, devotion, and sacrifice all reduced to one vile truth. My husband and his entire family had betrayed me. I slammed the laptop shut. The sound echoed in the silent room. The brutal truth was exposed. My tears stopped. From deep within, a blazing fire of hatred erupted. If they wanted war, they would have war. And I would not lose. When the shock subsided, a terrifying emptiness filled me. I sank onto the cold floor, leaning against the wall, my eyes hollow. I pieced together every memory, those urgent calls, sudden business trips, expensive gifts my mother-in-law bragged that Daniel's friend had given him. They were all fragments of a grand deception, and I was the only fool unaware of it. I stepped out onto the balcony, taking a deep breath. The Los Angeles night air was icy. City lights flickered in the distance, but to me, everything was gray ash. That's when I saw my neighbor from across the street walking her dog. When she noticed me, she waved. "Rose, you're back. I thought you went with your family." "Yes, I had to return early for work." The woman approached, uneasy, lowering her voice. "Rose, please don't be upset by what I'm about to say. The other day, before they left, your mother-in-law came over and couldn't stop bragging about Daniel's new girlfriend, how beautiful and graceful she was. And how she would finally give the Miller family the grandson they'd been longing for. She even said your marriage had been falling apart for a long time, and it was only a matter of time before you went to court. I felt so sorry for you. Please, stay strong." Each word she spoke cut through the last fragile thread of my patience. The glass had overflowed. They hadn't just betrayed me behind my back, they had humiliated me in public. The woman I had deeply respected, my mother-in-law, had gone around boasting that my marriage was over while I worked tirelessly for what I believed was our family. I thanked the neighbor mechanically and went back inside. The pain was gone. My broken heart had turned to stone. They left me no escape, so I owed them no mercy. My first move was to check our finances. I opened the banking app on my phone. In the joint account where we had saved more than $350,000 over 7 years, there were now only a few hundred left. The transaction history showed multiple large withdrawals and transfers over the past 2 months, all made during my business trips. The recipient, a name I now knew too well, Lara Foster. But it didn't end there. I checked the credit cards. Daniel's limit was nearly maxed out, filled with charges from luxury boutiques, fine dining, and lavish travel expenses. He was using our money, my hard work, to fund his double life. My fury peaked. They hadn't only betrayed me emotionally, they had robbed me in plain sight. They planned to strip me of everything and leave me with nothing. A wave of contempt and rage surged through me. I sat at the desk and opened my laptop. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I began searching for divorce lawyers and information on asset protection laws. Night had fully fallen over Los Angeles, but I couldn't close my eyes. The Grand Villa had become a cold prison. I couldn't bear another second there. I packed a few clothes and, most importantly, every document that mattered into a small suitcase. Before leaving, I looked around the house one last time. Our wedding photo on the wall seemed to mock me. Without hesitation, I took it down and threw it in the trash. I had to cut all ties. I drove aimlessly as tears streamed down my face. Finally, my car stopped at the only place I could think of, my parents' house in Santa Monica. My mother was stunned to see me, exhausted and broken, in the middle of the night. She pulled me into her arms and asked anxiously, "Rose, what happened? Are you okay? Where's Daniel? I couldn't say anything, I just cried in my mother's warm arms. My father came out of his study. His face grew serious when he saw me. Having worked his whole life as a lawyer and seen all kinds of people and cases, he knew immediately something serious was wrong. Come inside, tell your mother and me slowly. His voice was warm and deep, with a strange power that reassured. Under the yellow light of the living room, I told everything. The door was locked, the family's trip to Miami, the mistress being pregnant, the photos and the empty bank account. At first I trembled, but my voice gradually became clear and firm. The early sobs turned into a sharp anger. When I finished, my mother trembled with fury. My God, how can people be so brazen? A whole family deceiving my daughter. Poor Rose, you must have suffered so much. She cried and hugged me. My father said nothing. He sat down in a chair, hands clasped, eyes cold. His silence was more terrifying than 1,000 reproaches. When I finished, he spoke, each word like a verdict. Daughter, listen to me. First, you've cried and suffered enough. From now on, you must be strong. You did nothing wrong. They are the ones who did wrong. You must not collapse. I nodded and wiped my tears quickly. Second, my father continued, we will not let them get away with this. This is not simply adultery. This is fraud, embezzlement of assets. It could even be a criminal offense if collusion is proven. I will not allow them to treat you like this. But, Dad, where do I start? I asked, my voice still tight. The first thing is to find a very good lawyer. A very, very good one. He looked straight into my eyes. This can't be handled with emotions. It must be dealt with legally. Do you remember Ethan, your cousin Robert's son? He was in the same class as you. He's now one of the top divorce and asset dispute attorneys in New York. He's sharp, decisive, and he doesn't let his clients lose out. I remembered Ethan, an old classmate, smart and cheeky, now a successful lawyer. I hadn't been in touch for a long time. Your father will call Ethan now. He'll come right away. In the meantime, rest. This battle will be long and you need to preserve your strength. Less than an hour after my father called, the doorbell rang. Ethan arrived earlier than expected. The tall, thin young man with thick-framed glasses I remembered had become a commanding man in an expensive suit. But the sharp look behind the lenses was unchanged. Good evening, sir and ma'am. And hello, Rose. Ethan greeted my parents, then turned to look at me. For a moment I saw a flash of pity in his eyes, quickly replaced by the focused demeanor of a professional. Your father briefed me. Rose, get to the point. This is not the time for lamenting. It's time for action. Tell me everything in detail, don't omit anything. I recounted it all again, this time without tears or sobs. I showed him the photos, the reservation confirmation, and the bank statement screenshots. My father sat beside me and added a few details from his seasoned legal perspective. When I finished, he looked up. This is more serious than I thought, Ethan said bluntly. This is not just a divorce for adultery. This is organized fraud. They planned in detail to seize your assets. But they made a fatal mistake. They were too arrogant and left too much evidence. Ethan turned the tablet screen toward me. On it was a clearly drawn mind map. This is our strategy. We will attack from 3 directions. First, adultery and breach of marital fidelity. The photos, videos, neighbor statements, and the booking emails are more than enough evidence. We can file suit for living with another person in a relationship akin to marriage. This can lead to serious legal consequences. Legal consequences. I had never imagined pushing Daniel that far, but seeing him embrace his mistress while his whole family smiled happily at my pain erased all hesitation. Second, Ethan continued, and the most important, the financial front. We must prove Daniel diverted marital assets, embezzled funds, and may have even forged your signature to obtain loans. You said he's an executive in the family company, right? We need all information about that company. I will request an independent audit. I suspect he used company funds to buy a house or car for that woman. How do I get that information? I asked, anxious. At that moment, the doorbell rang. My mother opened it, and the person who stepped in was my cousin Mark. Though in casual clothes, His posture and stride gave away that he was a police officer. Uncle said I should come right away. Mark said, worry in his eyes. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said, shaking my head slightly. Just in time, my father said, explaining the situation. Upon hearing it, Mark's face turned serious. He patted my shoulder, then turned to Ethan. How can I help? We need your help, Ethan replied, a calculating smile on his face. First, investigate the identity of a woman named Lara Foster. I have a feeling she's not clean. Second, check all real estate and vehicle transactions under the names Daniel Miller or Lara Foster in the past 2 years. And third, if possible, find a way to get information from an accountant at the Miller Company. Understood. This is a family matter. I'll have a preliminary report within 24 hours. As for Daniel's adultery, no need to investigate. Everyone knows he's a philanderer. Only my poor cousin Rose didn't know, he added. His words were another stab, but one that woke me up. And the third line of attack, Ethan continued, is psychological. We will act fast and unexpectedly, not giving them time to react. While they are still partying in Miami, we will set the perfect trap here in Los Angeles. When they return, they will have nothing left. That night, my parents' living room stayed lit until late. The room became our command center. My father, the seasoned lawyer, was the strategic advisor. Ethan, the commander, mapped out each step. Mark, the reconnaissance team, gathered evidence. And I, the wounded one, had become the secret weapon in this fight. The next morning, as I reviewed documents with Ethan and my father, the phone rang. It was Daniel. My heart tightened, my stomach clenched. I looked at Ethan for help. He signaled calm and whispered, answer. Play the part. You are the worried wife, don't let any suspicion show. If possible, cry. Keep the call long and put it on speaker. I inhaled, controlled my emotions, slid my finger to pick up, trying to make my voice tremble. My love. You asleep? Sorry, I was so busy yesterday I couldn't call back. Daniel's voice was sweet, perfectly fake. That's okay. I began to sob. I was just worried about you. So many meetings, take care of yourself. Ethan gave a thumbs-up signal. I'm fine, don't worry. I'll be back in a few days, Daniel lied without hesitation. You're at your parents', right? I asked. Yes, I'm here. I'm so scared being home alone. I added a touch of weakness, the kind he liked. Hey, yesterday I checked the joint account and saw a lot of money withdrawn. I'm worried. I baited. Oh, that's money I invested, trying to surprise you. Soon you'll see the returns double or triple. Your wife doesn't need to worry. That's good. I thought something bad had happened. Go on with your work, I won't bother you anymore. Love you. When I hung up, I felt drained, as if I'd been through a battle. Pretending to love the person I hated to the bone was torture. Perfect, Ethan said, patting my shoulder. He's already lying to hide money, thinking you still trust blindly. That's our advantage. Now the important thing is for you to go back to that villa. The personal computer, the safe, all the evidence will be there. But I don't want to go back. I'm scared. You will not go alone, Ethan said firmly. I will go with you. As your lawyer and on behalf of the client, to collect documents related to the divorce. Completely legal, and I've hired a tech specialist. He will copy all data from Daniel's computer, including deleted files. The plan was put into action that very afternoon. Ethan, the tech specialist, and I returned to the crime scene. I had to face the memories and pain of that place, but this time I was not alone. The place where the betrayal began would be the starting point of their downfall. My play the role of the naive, desperate wife had officially begun. I would act it all the way, until the curtain fell and the guilty paid. That afternoon, Ethan, the tech expert, and I went back to the Beverly Hills villa. The atmosphere inside was as cold as the night before. While the tech specialist copied Daniel's computer data, Ethan and I carefully searched the office. Behind a painting, we found a small safe. Do you know the code? I shook my head, then suddenly remembered the mistress's birth date. I had seen it in a file on the computer. My hands trembling, I entered the numbers. A click, the safe opened. Inside there wasn't much cash, but it was full of loan contracts and strange papers. Most horrifying were the forms with borrower and guarantor signatures, all my name, clumsily forged. My heart nearly stopped. Daniel hadn't betrayed me, he tried to make me a criminal, to shoulder his enormous debts. Ethan photographed each document, his face taut with anger. Here it is, irrefutable evidence. Forging signatures to obtain loans is clearly a criminal offense. This time the Millers won't get away with it. We packed up and left immediately. No sooner had we returned to my parents' house, and I hadn't finished my glass of water when the doorbell rang violently. My mother checked the camera, her face pale. "It's your mother-in-law." My father and I looked at each other, then at Ethan. He smiled slyly, took my phone, hit record, and secretly tucked it into my coat pocket. "Now the performance begins. Stay calm. The more she talks, the more she reveals." My mother opened the door, and Mrs. Miller, my mother-in-law, stormed in like a hurricane. Gone was her usual polished elegance. Today she looked worn out and furious. The moment she saw me, she pointed straight at my face without so much as a greeting. "What are you doing here? Who gave you permission to come?" "This is my parents' house, ma'am. If I can't come here, where else should I go?" I tried to keep my voice calm. "Still calling me ma'am? I never had a daughter-in-law like you," she shouted. "Daniel told me everything. You live off him. You're jealous, you make scenes. You're not worthy of my son." My father shot up from his chair, furious. "You should watch your words. This is my house, and my daughter is not someone you can insult at will." "Oh, you defend your daughter well, don't you?" she sneered. "Let me be clear. Daniel has found someone better. Laura is beautiful, graceful, and carrying our precious grandson. Your daughter would be wise to step aside quietly." She threw a stack of papers onto the table. "Here's the divorce agreement I prepared. Sign it. You'll get a condo worth $700,000 as compensation for your wasted youth. Take it and disappear from my son's life. Don't make me push harder. That editor-in-chief position of yours, I can make it vanish anytime." I stared at the cheap divorce papers and the shameless face of the woman I had once respected. Anger surged, but I remembered Ethan's words. I took a deep breath, looked her straight in the eye, and said clearly, "Are you done speaking? If so, please leave my house. I won't sign this document, and I won't take any condo. As for the divorce, we'll see each other in court." "What?" Her face stiffened, completely shocked. She hadn't expected the obedient daughter-in-law she once knew to talk back to her like that. Just as she was about to open her mouth to yell again, Ethan stepped forward. In his hand was a phone, the screen showing an active voice recording. "Mrs. Miller, good afternoon. I'm Ethan Roberts, Rose's attorney. Your entire conversation, every threat and insult since you walked in has been recorded. It will make excellent evidence in court. Thank you for personally bringing us such a gift." My mother-in-law's face went from red to white. She stammered, pointed at us, then turned and stormed out, cursing under her breath as the door slammed shut. I sank into a chair, trembling all over. Ethan stopped the recording and smiled. "The evidence just came to us. Next step, let's meet the future Mrs. Miller." That night, my cousin Mark sent Ethan a thick file. The information about Laura Foster left us all stunned. She was only 24. She came from a small town and had dropped out early to move to Los Angeles. Her work record was vague, but her romantic record stood out suspiciously. She specialized in hunting wealthy, married, middle-aged men. Daniel wasn't her first victim and certainly wouldn't be her last. A professional gold digger, exactly as Ethan suspected. More importantly, Mark found the address of the luxury apartment Daniel had bought for her, a penthouse in an upscale area of downtown Los Angeles, under the name Laura Foster. However, the entire payment had come from the Miller Company's account, listed as project expenses. Embezzlement and misappropriation of funds, another charge added to the list. "Another crime," Ethan said, tapping his finger on the file. "Rose, do you want to meet her? I think you should. We need proof that they're living together as husband and wife." Honestly, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to face the woman who destroyed my marriage. But reason told me I had to. I needed to see it with my own eyes to shatter the last illusion and turn pain into pure power. "I'll go," I said firmly. The next morning, I drove there alone. Ethan waited at a nearby cafe, ready to step in if needed. I stood in front of the apartment door on the 7th floor, took a deep breath to steady myself. What I saw glued to the door made me freeze. A wooden plaque laser engraved with the words, "The Miller Family." They weren't even hiding it. They were living openly as husband and wife, building their home on the ashes of my life. My blood boiled with rage. I pressed the doorbell hard. A few seconds later, the door opened. Laura Foster stood there wearing a silk robe, her pregnant belly visible, one hand resting on her hip. She looked me up and down, smirked with disdain. In person she was even more beautiful than in photos, a cold, calculated kind of beauty. "Yes? Who are you looking for?" "I'm Rose Miller, the legal wife of Daniel Miller." I enunciated each word. Laura burst out laughing. "Oh, so you're the wife. I've heard plenty about you. But Daniel's not here, he's busy preparing for our family vacation, for our son and me." "I'm not here for him," I replied coolly. "Oh, you came for me then?" Laura arched an eyebrow. "What for? To fight me? Please. What century are you living in? You should blame yourself for not keeping your husband. A middle-aged woman who can't even have children, how could you ever compare to me?" Her words pierced like needles, but I stayed calm. I looked at her belly, then raised my eyes and gave a cold smile. "I didn't come to pull your hair. I came to give you some news." "What news?" Laura tilted her chin. "First, Daniel Miller and I are still legally married. You living with him as husband and wife constitutes a criminal offense. And that Miller family plaque will make perfect evidence." Her confident expression faltered slightly. "Second," I continued, "this apartment was purchased with embezzled funds from Miller Group. The police will soon inspect this property, and since you're the registered owner, you'll be under investigation." "You? What nonsense are you talking about?" Laura stammered, her arrogant smile vanishing. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "And finally, you think the baby in your belly is your insurance policy. Don't be naive. It won't make you Mrs. Miller. As for me, I don't care, but once the Millers learn the truth about that child, we'll see if they still want to call it an heir." I turned and walked away without looking back. She shouted something behind me, but I didn't care. I had planted a seed of doubt in her mind, shattered her arrogant confidence. I had won. And this was only the beginning. After that confrontation, I felt strangely light. The hatred remained, but it was no longer blind, it became a controlled flame, a source of power for the next move. The next morning, Ethan and I went to the bank. Following his advice, I requested that all joint accounts and credit cards Daniel used be frozen. At first the staff hesitated, but once Ethan presented our marriage certificate and evidence of Daniel's asset concealment, they immediately cooperated. The small remaining balance was transferred to a new account under my name only. "This is the first step, cut off his lifeline," Ethan said. "Without money, he won't be able to maintain his lavish life with the Mistress and will soon panic." The next move was even bolder. Through an independent auditing firm my father recommended, Ethan sent an official audit request to Miller Group. We demanded reconciliation and review of all accounting records for the past 3 years. As the legal wife of the CEO and a directly involved party, I had every right to request it. The letter also warned that if the company failed to cooperate, we would file a lawsuit and request court intervention. This was a direct strike at the Millers' source of income. And just as Ethan predicted, the results came quickly. That afternoon, while I was at the office handling work, my phone kept ringing. It was Daniel. I let it ring a few times before answering, pretending to sound sleepy. "What is it, honey?" I asked, faking a small yawn. "Rose, something big's happened." Daniel's voice was no longer sweet or fake, it was pure panic. "My cards, all of them, are frozen. I can't withdraw cash, can't pay for anything. Check your account." "That's strange," I said, feigning surprise. "Let me see. Oh, the joint account's frozen too. Maybe the bank's having issues, or maybe it's that investment you mentioned before, they might have temporarily locked it." For verification, I skillfully tossed the responsibility back to him. There was silence for a few seconds, I could almost hear him sweating. "Yeah, maybe," Daniel muttered nervously. "I'll call the bank." Oh, and Rose, an auditing firm showed up at the office today asking to see the books. That wasn't you, was it? An audit? I don't know anything about that, I said innocently. Maybe it's just a routine check. Our company's reputable. Don't worry. Enjoy your trip. I'll handle things here. I hung up, my lips curling into a cold smile. Yes, I would handle things thoroughly until he and his entire family drowned in the swamp of lies they created. The first counterstrike an absolute success. Now all I had to do was watch the trapped fish thrash. In the following days, Daniel called non-stop. Sometimes sweet and pleading, sometimes angry and demanding, but I played my role perfectly. The innocent, clueless wife. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, our revenge machine ran smoothly and ruthlessly. One night, Ethan called with urgency in his voice. Rose, new development. Daniel Miller is registering his parents, brother, and sister-in-law as residents of your shared villa. I froze. Why? To legitimize their claim of ownership, Ethan said firmly. The villa is marital property, but the title is only under your name. If they register residence there, they can argue in court that it's the family's primary home, that they contributed to maintenance and repairs. They can fabricate anything. We need to stop this now. How do we stop them? I asked, worried. Ethan stayed calm. Now it's time to use our trump card. You remember those forged loan documents we found in the safe, right? They're not just evidence of fraud, they expose the true nature of that entire family. We won't just block the new primary residence claim, we'll file emergency protective orders, place fraud alerts and credit freezes, and push for subpoenas to audit their filings. Once the DA sees this evidence, they'll move fast. Revoked? I was stunned. That was a devastating strike. Their whole family would become ghost citizens, unable to conduct any civil transactions, buy or sell property, travel, or even receive medical care. Can that even be done? I asked, my voice trembling. For most people, no. For us, yes. Ethan smiled. And the key is your cousin Detective Mark. The next morning, Ethan, Mark, and I went to the police department. Using his position and connections, Mark arranged a private meeting with the commissioner. In the solemn office, I explained everything: Daniel's betrayal, the financial fraud, and the scheme to seize my villa. Ethan added sharp legal arguments, but the killing blow came from the file Mark placed on the table. Commissioner, Mark began, these are documents showing that Mr. Daniel Miller repeatedly forged legal papers and his wife's signature, Mrs. Rose Miller's, to obtain illegal loans and transactions worth millions of dollars. His actions clearly demonstrate intent to defraud and unlawfully profit. The Miller family is now attempting to register residency in Mrs. Miller's property to claim ownership. We suspect their current registration records also contain falsified information. Therefore, to prevent further criminal acts and support the ongoing investigation, we request that all identification documents and residency records of the entire Miller family be administratively frozen and permanently revoked if fraud is confirmed. The commissioner carefully examined the file, his eyebrows tightening as he read. He looked at me with sympathy, then nodded at Mark. Understood. I'll handle this personally. Rest assured, everything will proceed strictly according to the law. When we left the station, the California sun was blazing, but a chill ran down my spine. I had just delivered a fatal blow to their entire family, stripping them of the most basic right of citizenship. Soon, they would learn that without legal identity, they were nothing. Their paradise vacation in Miami was about to turn into an inescapable nightmare. While the Millers floundered amid frozen credit cards and an uncertain future, I decided to deliver the final strike, not just legal or financial, but psychological. I want to sell the villa, I told Ethan in his office. He nearly dropped his coffee. You what? I'm selling it. Right now, I said firmly. It's my property, under my name. With their legal status frozen, they can't stop me. I want them to come back and find not a home but a door that no longer belongs to them. Ethan looked at me, both shocked and impressed. You're ruthless, but I like it. That's a perfect move. Not only will it give you the funds to start over, it'll also destroy their symbol of success, the house they were so proud of. You'll crush their spirit. My father interjected, worried. But selling a $3 million house isn't easy. I'm not selling it for $3 million, I replied. I'll list it for $2.8 million and demand the deal close within a week. The wealthy always need luxury homes urgently, they won't bargain. The plan went into motion immediately. Thanks to Ethan's and my father's networks, word spread quickly in the real estate community about a luxury villa with clean ownership and an unexpectedly low price. Within 2 days, an international trade businessman reached out. He needed a high-end mansion fast to host foreign partners. A week later, I sat in a notary's office signing the sale contract. As I placed my signature, emotions surged. The house that once held beautiful memories, where I had dreamed of a happy family, was the same place where betrayal had taken root. And now, by my own hand, it was erased. No regret, only relief, as if a 1,000-pound weight had been lifted. $2,800,000 were transferred into a secure account arranged by Ethan. The Miller family now had nothing, no money, no reputation, no home to return to. I wondered, when they came back exhausted from the airport and saw strangers living in their house, how would they feel? Exactly the way they once made me feel, stripped of everything. My revenge plan was unfolding perfectly, better than I'd ever imagined. Every step I took pulled the Millers deeper into despair. I should have felt triumphant, satisfied, but strangely I only felt weaker. Every morning, I woke nauseous, without appetite, unable to get out of bed. At first, I blamed it on stress and exhaustion from weeks of battle. When my mother saw how pale and thin I'd become, her worry deepened. "Rose, why don't you get a checkup? I can't rest easy. I'll go with you." To reassure her, I went to a private hospital in Beverly Hills. After a blood test and a few scans, I waited nervously. Half an hour later, a nurse called my name. The doctor, a woman about my mother's age, looked at me kindly, glanced at the screen, then smiled. "Congratulations, there's nothing wrong at all. In fact, there's wonderful news. Good news." I stammered. "You're pregnant, about 5 weeks. The implantation looks strong, and the baby is healthy. You're just experiencing more nausea than usual due to your condition. I'll prescribe vitamins and give you some diet guidance." Pregnant, the word thundered in my mind. I froze. Beside me, my mother shifted from surprise to joy, then worry as she saw my pale face. I could no longer hear the doctor's words. A life was growing inside me, the result of this deceitful marriage. It was my child, but also Daniel's. Every piece of my revenge, all the hatred, all the iron resolve shattered in an instant. What was I supposed to do with this baby? Keep it and carry the blood of a betrayer, reliving humiliation every day? Or end it? I shuddered. It was my child, my flesh and blood. I couldn't be that cruel. I left the Beverly Hills hospital like a ghost, clutching the ultrasound image, a tiny black dot that felt heavier than the world, capable of changing everything. My war was no longer simple. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I now had to decide the fate of an innocent life. The road ahead suddenly looked darker than ever. The days after learning I was pregnant were the darkest of my life. I locked myself in my room, seeing no one, not even my parents. I was torn between two forces, the instinct to protect my baby, and the logic screaming that it was a chain binding me forever to the Miller family. Just as my revenge reached its peak, this child shook my resolve. What should I do? In the depths of my despair, my phone rang, an unknown number. I wasn't going to answer, but it kept ringing. Finally, irritated, I picked up. "Who is this?" "Are you Mrs. Rose Miller, wife of Mr. Daniel Miller?" a low, raspy woman's voice asked. "Yes. Who are you?" I replied cautiously. "My name is Caroline Miller. I'm Daniel's aunt." His aunt. I had never heard anyone in the Miller family mention her. As far as I knew, my father-in-law was an only child. As if reading my mind, she continued, "You're surprised, aren't you? My brother, your father-in-law, cut ties with me over 20 years ago. He doesn't want anyone to know I exist. Then why are you calling me?" "I've been watching you for the past few days," Caroline said. "I know about Daniel's affair, and how his family betrayed you. You've done well, freezing their accounts, canceling their residency, selling the house. You're brave. You remind me of myself when I was young. Her voice carried a trace of bitterness. I'm calling because I want to help you. They say the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and you and I share the same enemy, my brother's family. Why should I trust you? I asked. I'm not asking you to trust me right away. First, meet me. I have something important to show you, something that will ensure the Miller family never rises again. I'll wait for you tonight, 8 p.m., at the Refuge Cafe on the corner of Sunset Boulevard. Then she hung up. A disowned aunt resurfacing after 2 decades, offering to help me destroy the Millers. It was bizarre. But at this point, I had nothing left to lose. I decided to go. At 8 p.m., I arrived at the Refuge, a small, cozy cafe tucked away on a quiet street. Caroline was already there, seated in the far corner. She looked around 60, with silver hair, sharp eyes full of pride and experience. She looked nothing like my father-in-law. As soon as I sat down, she got straight to the point, placing an old leather briefcase on the table. These are the original documents of Miller Group, Caroline said. The company my brother and I founded together, but once it became profitable, he schemed to force me out and took all the shares. Inside are proofs of his tax evasion, shell companies, and embezzlement used to build the wealth he has today. I flipped through each page, numbers, signatures, fake contracts, undeniable evidence. With this alone, my father-in-law could spend the rest of his life in prison. But this isn't the best part, Caroline said, her gaze complex. She handed me a yellowed piece of paper. This is the real weapon. I took it. It was a DNA test result. Subjects: Robert Miller, my father-in-law, and Daniel Miller. Result: no biological relationship. I was stunned. Daniel was not his biological son. That's right. Caroline nodded, as if reading my mind. Daniel was the result of an affair between my sister-in-law, your mother-in-law, and her former lover. My brother found out, but he needed an heir to preserve the family's reputation, so he chose to raise Daniel as his own. But deep down, he never truly loved him. That's why he's always been harsh and controlling with him. This is the Miller family's biggest secret, the disgrace my brother has hidden his entire life. Now I'm giving it to you. What you do with it, that's up to you. I looked at the woman in front of me, then at the file in my hands. The turmoil I'd felt over the child in my womb vanished, replaced by a cold, absolute clarity. Caroline had just handed me the sharpest blade, and I would use it to end everything. The Millers' vacation ended in disaster. They didn't fly home in business class like before, but were crammed onto a budget red-eye flight after borrowing money wherever they could. All their accounts were frozen, their credit cards nothing but useless plastic. When the taxi stopped in front of the Beverly Hills villa, they froze. The familiar iron gate had been replaced with a new one, and worse, a strange family was moving in. What is this? Who dares enter my house? My father-in-law shouted. The new homeowner, a businessman, looked at them in surprise. Your house? You must be mistaken. This is my home. I bought it legally with all proper documents. Bought? Bought from who? My mother-in-law stammered. From the previous owner, Mrs. Rose Miller. My name dropped like thunder. Daniel stood frozen. She sold it? Cut off the family's escape completely? Humiliated and desperate, they had no choice but to stay in a cheap motel. The second blow came when my father-in-law tried to withdraw money from his hidden account but failed. At the bank, they were told that all identification and residency documents for the Miller family had been administratively frozen for investigation. No house, no money, not even legal identity. They fell into utter panic. In their madness, one name haunted them: mine. Find that woman. I'll ruin her. My mother-in-law screamed inside the motel room. After days of silence, Daniel exploded in fury too. He couldn't believe that the quiet, obedient wife he once knew could have orchestrated all this alone. Someone's behind her, he growled. We're going to her company. I want her to explain everything. The next morning, I went to work as usual, calm but fully prepared. Ethan had arranged 2 plainclothes bodyguards around the building. Mark had alerted the local police. One signal from me, and they'd step in. In the conference room, the projector was ready, connected to my laptop. Inside was all the evidence. I had set the perfect trap, and the foolish moths were flying straight into the fire. I sat in my office, sipping chamomile tea to stay composed. My mind was completely still. The final act was about to begin and I was the director. The Miller family would be the stars of their own tragedy. Before leaving home that morning, I'd received a call from Mark. "There's a special gift for the finale," he said, excitement in his voice. "What gift?" My heart raced. A few days earlier, after planting doubt in Laura's mind, I had asked Mark to collect Daniel's and his brother's hair samples, along with a small piece of Laura's fingernail she'd accidentally left in the taxi after confronting me. It wasn't exactly a conventional method, but in this war, I wasn't bound by rules. "The DNA results," Mark said. "I just got them from the lab. It's from a private lab enough to rattle them now. The court-ordered tests will follow. Sit down and listen carefully. The baby Laura's carrying isn't Daniel's." "Not Daniel's. Then whose?" "Peter's, his brother's." My mouth fell open, another shock. But this one was pure satisfaction. This story was more twisted than any TV drama. The woman Daniel worshipped, the supposed heir the Millers were so proud of, was the product of incest and double betrayal. Both brothers had slept with the same woman. That family was rotten to the core. "Thank you, Mark," I said, my voice like steel. "That's a priceless gift. Send me a copy of the report immediately." I received the file within seconds. The numbers and words in it were a death sentence for the Millers' reputation. This was the ultimate weapon. I saved the file in a folder labeled Phenol. Everything was ready. I looked in the mirror, adjusted my outfit, a deep wine-red suit. The color of power, the color of blood. I applied my makeup carefully, hiding exhaustion, revealing only sharpness and confidence. Then I called an emergency meeting for all department heads and board members. "I need everyone present. This is a personal matter, but it may affect the company's reputation." Curiosity filled the air. Everyone showed up. I wanted them all to witness the Millers' downfall, to see them shamed before a crowd, the same way they once humiliated me. The trap was set. The prey was on its way. Around 10 a.m., the Miller family stormed in, ignoring reception and charging straight to my floor. The office erupted in chaos. Daniel led the way, face flushed from rage and sleeplessness, followed by his parents, brother, and sister-in-law. "Rose, get out here," he roared, oblivious to my stunned coworkers. I walked out calmly, meeting his glare. "What's the matter, Mr. Miller?" Still pretending. My mother-in-law lunged at me, ready to slap, but the bodyguards intercepted her. "What did you do to my family? Why did you sell the house? Why are our accounts frozen? Why was our residency canceled?" I think those questions are better discussed in the conference room. Too many people here. And conveniently, I have something to show all of you. I turned and opened the conference room door. Inside, all the executives and colleagues were already seated. The Millers, still fuming but curious, followed me in to clear things up. Once everyone sat down, I picked up the remote and stepped to the podium. The door closed behind us. "Welcome, Miller family." My voice echoed through the room. The screen lit up photos of Daniel and Laura in Miami, holding hands lovingly by the beach. The room buzzed. Daniel's face went pale. Act 1. Adultery. Mr. Daniel Miller, while legally married to me, openly had an affair with Miss Laura Foster, resulting in her pregnancy. The entire Miller family was aware, covered it up, and even celebrated. I clicked to the next slide: bank statements and forged loan documents bearing my fake signature. Act 2. Fraud. Mr. Daniel Miller embezzled company funds, diverted marital assets, and forged my signature to obtain millions in loans. And there's no way the chairman, Mr. Robert Miller, didn't know. My father-in-law shot up. "You dare slander me?" "Slander? Then listen to this recording." My mother-in-law's voice filled the room, crystal clear through the speakers. "Sign it. I'll give you a condo worth $700,000 as compensation for your youth. Don't make me push harder. That editor-in-chief title of yours, I can make it disappear anytime." The room fell silent. Her face drained of color as she collapsed into a chair. "Now for the main course," I said, locking eyes with Daniel. "You're very proud of your so-called heir, aren't you?" I pressed the button. The DNA report appeared on screen. I read it aloud, word for word. DNA test result between Mr. Peter Miller and the unborn child of Miss Laura Foster. Direct biological relation. Daniel glared at his brother, his expression twisting from shock to madness. Peter's wife fainted on the spot. But we're not done yet, I said coldly. There's one last secret, the one Mr. Robert Miller, the head of this family, has kept hidden for decades. I projected the old DNA report Caroline had given me. Mr. Daniel Miller, the son Mr. Robert has always punished and despised is, in fact, not his biological child. That was the final straw. Daniel screamed like a wounded animal and lunged at me, trying to strangle me. I'll kill you. But before he could touch me, the door burst open. Police officers stormed in. Mark led the team, coldly handcuffing Daniel. Daniel Miller, you are under arrest for attempted assault. Mr. Robert, Mrs. Margaret, Mr. Peter, you are being served with subpoenas in the ongoing fraud and embezzlement case. Mr. Daniel Miller, you're under arrest for attempted assault. The entire Miller family was escorted out under the shocked stares of everyone present. The play had ended. I gently placed a hand over my stomach. The storm had passed, and I was the only one still standing. News of the incident exploded. An employee had recorded the entire scene, and the video spread across the internet. Overnight, my story was everywhere. Editor-in-chief exposes infidelity, fraud, and secret bloodlines of a prominent Los Angeles business family. The media storm rose high, but this time, it didn't drown me. It lifted me. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on my side. People called me the Iron Rose, praising my intelligence, courage, and resilience. Women's forums buzzed, treating my story as a symbol of strength for those brave enough to stand up for themselves. Amid the chaos, I chose silence. I took an extended leave and stayed at my parents' coastal home in Oregon, far from the media. The only thing that mattered now was the small life growing inside me. That evening, as we sat in the living room, my father put down his copy of the Wall Street Journal and asked softly, "Daughter, what will you do about the baby?" I quietly stroked my belly. My mother took my hand. "Whatever you decide, we'll be here for you. If you keep the baby, we'll raise it together. It's our grandchild, your own flesh and blood. The baby did nothing wrong. Mother was right, the child was innocent. The guilty ones were the adults. I had made the betrayers pay. Now I couldn't let hatred destroy an innocent life. I'll keep the baby," I said firmly. "And I'll raise it to be a good person." My father smiled. "Good. My daughter has truly grown up." Meanwhile, elsewhere, Laura Foster made her choice too. When she saw the scandal video and realized all the secrets were exposed, she immediately packed up the cash and ran. When the police arrived at the downtown Los Angeles penthouse, all they found was an empty apartment and the shattered "The Miller Family" sign on the floor. She had vanished, taking the dirty money and an unborn child of uncertain fate. A few weeks later, when everything quieted down, I received a letter from prison. It was from Daniel. He wanted to see me. Ethan advised me not to go, but I thought differently. To end the past, I had to face him one last time. On a gloomy afternoon, I went to the federal prison in San Bernardino. Sitting behind the thick glass, I waited. A few minutes later, Daniel appeared. I almost didn't recognize him. The arrogant man I once knew was now a frail shadow in a prison uniform, hair shaved short, eyes sunken. When he saw me, he rushed to the glass, eyes flickering with hope. "Rose, you came. I knew you would." Daniel broke down crying. "Rose, I'm sorry. I know words mean nothing now, but I truly regret everything. I was wrong. I'm garbage. You can hit me, curse me, do whatever you want, just please forgive me. Would my forgiveness change anything? Would it undo what you did? Would it save your family from their crimes?" Daniel lowered his head, trembling. "No, I know I don't deserve it. But I just need to ask. The baby. You still have it, don't you?" I didn't answer, just stared at him. "Rose, please," he begged, pressing his palm against the glass. "Take care of our child. It's innocent. It's my blood. Even in prison, I want to be its father. When I'm released, I'll do everything to make things right." I replied coldly, "My child. This baby is mine and has nothing to do with you or the Miller family. Daniel froze, then nodded bitterly. Yes, your child. As long as you care for it, that's enough for me. He hesitated, then added quietly, one more thing. Be careful with Caroline. She's not who you think. She hates my father, hates my entire family. She didn't help you out of kindness, she has her own agenda. Her cruelty runs deeper than you can imagine. Be careful, Rose. Don't become her next pawn. Visiting time ended. As the guards led him away, Daniel kept turning back, shouting, "Be careful." I sat there, my mind spinning. Could a traitor's warning be trusted? Still, a seed of doubt had been planted. Caroline. Who was she really? I shook my head, pushing the thoughts away. Whoever she was, whatever her purpose, my war was over. From now on, I would live only for myself and my child, leaving the past behind that thick glass. 1 year later, I sat on the balcony of my small apartment overlooking the Oregon coast. The ocean breeze played with my hair, carrying the scent of salt and a tender calm. Los Angeles, with all its noise, betrayal, and pain, was now just a memory. I had chosen this place to start anew. A soft cry came from the nursery. I smiled and walked inside. In a white cradle lay a tiny angel, stirring gently. His round eyes, smooth skin, and little button nose looked uncannily like mine. I named him Eli, hoping he would grow strong, peaceful, and free. His birth healed every wound in my heart. Watching him sleep, a faint smile on his lips, I knew keeping him was the best decision I had ever made. After the storm, I rebuilt my life with the money from selling the villa. Part went into savings, part into investing in a coastal property, and the rest I used to write. I poured my soul, my pain, my anger, and my rebirth into a book titled Reborn from the Ashes. Unexpectedly, it became a phenomenon. Millions of women saw themselves in my story. The book made the year's bestseller list and went through multiple reprints. From an editor-in-chief, I became an inspirational author. With the royalties, I turned another dream into reality. I founded the Light Within Foundation, a fund supporting women who suffered from abuse and injustice, providing legal aid, psychological counseling, and financial help. I realized I hadn't just taken revenge. I had been reborn. The Light Within Foundation grew stronger each day, becoming a refuge for countless broken lives. As for the Miller family, they paid dearly. Robert Miller was sentenced to 15 years in prison for tax evasion, embezzlement, and large-scale fraud. Miller Group collapsed, its assets seized to repay debts. Daniel Miller received 5 years for fraud, adultery, and assault. Peter Miller got a suspended sentence. Margaret Miller, my mother-in-law, lost her sanity after the shock. The once glamorous family was now utterly ruined. And me, I no longer cared. My life now was Eli, my writing, and the Light Within Foundation. In that simplicity, I had found true peace and purpose. One summer evening, the foundation held a fundraising gala at a seaside resort in California. As the founder, I was busy greeting sponsors and guests. Eli, just 1 year old, was in my mother's arms, the little star of the night. Everyone adored him. While I was chatting with a few donors, a familiar voice called from behind, "Rose." "Hey, you!" I turned. A tall man with kind eyes and a warm smile stood there. I froze for a moment before recognizing him. "David? Is that you?" "Yes, it's me. I can't believe it's really you. I read Reborn from the Ashes, it's incredible. I know your story now. You're amazing." David Parker, my quiet college friend who had helped me study tirelessly without ever asking for anything in return. After graduation, we lost touch. Who would have thought we'd meet again here? He was now an architect, leading the resort's construction project. After hearing about the gala, he decided to attend. We talked for hours about life, change, and the belief in new beginnings. David was easy to talk to. His eyes, whenever they rested on me and Eli, were warm and genuine. He never mentioned my painful past, just listened quietly. That night, after putting Eli to sleep, I received a text from an unknown number. "It's me, Daniel. Seems I'll be released soon. Could you send me a picture of the boy? I miss him so much." I read it without emotion, then deleted it quietly, decisively. That man, to me, had been dead for a long time. A few Days later, David came by. He brought no flowers, no expensive gifts, just a small wooden house model he'd built himself for Eli. The boy loved it, clutching it tight. David sat on the floor, patiently playing with my son. The scene was warm and peaceful. Looking up, he smiled gently at me. "Rose, maybe it's a bit soon, but if you don't mind, could I visit you both more often?" I looked at him, then at Eli, laughing happily. A quiet warmth spread through my heart, the place that had been frozen for so long. I smiled and nodded softly. A new morning dawned over the Oregon coast. No more storms, only sunlight, ocean waves, and the promise of a new happiness, complete, free, and deserved. Some storms in life seem like they'll wash everything away, but if you're brave enough to rise again, you realize from the ruins you can be reborn. I had lost almost everything: marriage, trust, dignity. But in the end, I chose to forgive myself, love my child, and start over, with a heart stronger than ever. And you? If you had to choose between hatred and peace, which path would you take? Share your thoughts below. Perhaps your story might reach someone who needs faith to begin again. And don't forget to stay connected so together, we can listen, learn, and find strength in the stories of life yet to come.